Big time hitting coach, making big money now.
I was surprised. I met him at the winter meeting 2 years ago. Walked up and right away he picked up on Jamestown.
Yeah.
We had a nice conversation. He was there with the Red Sox when he was.
Yeah, he was, he was good for me. Because I know that I was talking about that with one of my players the other day. One of them would like to go out a little bit because I remember, being like that, being young, and wanting to see the nightlife a little bit. And I remember, a couple of places, along the road that Walt would, set me down after the game and say, hey, you got a chance to play in the big leagues. You can't waste it, not giving 100%. Or not having yourself in shape to give 100%, He says you can't burn the candle at both ends. So Walt, was really an inspiration, I think, in my career.
Great.
I can remember a couple times him really getting on me about, doing something wrong in the game. Yeah, I remember one game we were playing here in Jamestown. And we're leading the game. We're about 12-1 or something. A big score. We're killing the other team. And Bobby Goodman was catching. And Cannonball Smith was at first base, who won the Triple Crown that year.
Yeah.
He had a great year here. But Goodman kept noticing they got a guy on first base. And he was noticing that if he'd come up like he was going to throw it back to the pitcher, that the guy on first base was putting his head down and walking back into first. So he got the idea that if he'd just come up and took a step back to the pitcher and then threw it like this to first base, that he could pick the guy off. Well, he'd throw it. He must have made a good throw, but Cannonball Smith or myself, I was playing right then. Neither one of us seen it. I looked down at the ground, like I guess like a lot of times after a pitch, and I look back up, and Mike Hart's the second baseman, and he's running out there. And when Mike got excited, his voice got real high. Get the ball, and I'm like, I don't see no ball. I'm standing out here like this, and this went down in the right field corner, and the guy wound up scoring from first base. And man, we come in after the game, we won the game 12-2, and Walt went up one side and down the other about not paying attention out there. So I remember it.
What year was that?
1973. I think. No, two. Yeah.
Is this your first year in
my first year.
baseball?
First
This was
year.
your first assignment, Jamestown?
First assignment. I remember coming here, and I can't remember where we met. I remember flying in here, and it was raining, and the plane was bouncing around, and had a baby on there, was crying. That was the first time I'd ever been in an airplane before.
Especially a commuter, huh?
Yeah, and we flew into Newark, and then we sort of puddle jumped to Jamestown, and we had a big meeting that night. I remember that in some hotel.
Yeah, we're in Hotel Jamestown. We had a welcome the ball.
Okay, I remember that, and I remember we had Mel Didier was the minor league director at that time, and he was in. And we had to all stand up and tell, where we were from and where we had played either high school or college ball at. And, just sort of getting to, to know each other. Yeah. I can remember being so scared. Oh. Because, at that time, you just don't know how good you are and how you're going to fit in. If you're going to be able to really play, or if you're over your head now.
Yeah.
And I can remember the spring training here, and staying over in the dorms here, which was was pretty nice because we didn't have to have a car. We could get around here in Jamestown, and of course most of us spend most of our time over the bowling alley.
At Tenbin, you had your meals there.
Yeah, we ate there and we bowled there, and we spend most of our time there.
Bucky was pretty good with the ball players.
Yeah. Between the bowling alley and the ballpark, that's basically where we spend our time at home here.
Who else was on that club with you? Any of them go to the bigs?
I think we only had one pitcher, and it was a little Canadian kid named Bill Atkinson. Had a real good curveball. But that was probably our weakness that year at pitching. We didn't have a very good pitching staff, but we had a lot of hitters. Bobby Goodman was the #1 draft choice in the country that year. and
Whatever happened to him?
he just injuries. He got, he tore up both knees, he tore up his shoulder, and just kept him from getting in the big leagues. In fact, he was drafted ahead of Gary Carter that year as a catcher, and he would have played in the big leagues without getting injured. First base, we had Cannonball Smith, who went on to win the Triple Crown here, and then the very next year, he got caught with drugs. And at that time, things were just different. They didn't tolerate, they didn't rehab, they just released him.
Especially the Expos.
Yeah, and then DDA was from the South, and he just didn't believe in any of that, and they released him, and he couldn't get a job with anybody else. Today, they would have sent him to a rehab center and all that, and at that time, his was grass, which today would be considered not that serious an offense.
They'd have worked with.
Right, but at that time, they sent him packing. Second base, we had Wally Wright, and Baez played shortstop. Randy Vivas played third base. Don Hopkins, who went on to play with Oakland a little bit, is one of Finley's pinch runners. When he was using the track guys, he was a world-class sprinter that Montreal tried to make a baseball player out of. And he never learned how to hit. But Finley tried him for, I think, a year there for just a base stealer, when he was going through that era. And then we had a center fielder, Felix Arce, who looked like was going to be a great player, but he just never learned to hit. He never could hit the breaking ball.
Was Hopkins? He stole a lot of bases here?
Yeah.
Was he the one we used to give us silver dollars to when he stole a base?
Might have been.
Yeah.
And boy, he could really run.
Yeah, he got a lot of silver dollars that year.
Yeah, he could really run. I think that was, but off of that Jamestown club that year, I think that myself and Bill Atkinson were the only two that played pro ball. Mike Hart played a little bit, I think. Mike Hart played second base, him and Wally Wright, and I think Mike Hart played a little bit in the big league. But for any length of time, I think myself and Bill Atkinson were the only two.
Pretty much as you remember it here, has things changed much since?
Well, it's changed a lot in this league since I was there. You still travel by bus, but the buses are nicer now. Some of the buses we have today, when we make a long trip, will have a couple TVs in it. We can watch VCR movies on the way, or maybe sometimes we take a short trip. We might have a hitting tape in there. Maybe some of them hitting. And it's air conditioned and heated back then. A lot of times the buses, your air conditioner was open in the windows. And some of the clubhouses, like here in Jamestown, they've really changed since I was here. And
how wet you guys used to get when it rained?
Yeah, because it would just go right on through. There's still some of those clubhouses still here. Batavia, Geneva. Well, not Batavia. They've redid theirs, but Geneva's still there. Auburn, still the old clubhouse. And Niagara Falls is still the old clubhouse. And it's good to see them renovating some of that. Because a lot of the places we stay at in this league here, we still have to dress in the hotels. And then go to the ballpark, dress, and then get back on the bus and go back to the hotel and then shower there, because the facilities at the ballparks aren't good enough.
Playing surface was pretty good here when you played with.
Playing surface was good. And a lot like, in fact, the playing surface in the field looks about like it used. No, it hadn't changed a whole lot, because it was a nice playing field then. Just the locker rooms has been upgraded. They look a lot better than they used to. Yeah.
They upgraded the lighting a little bit too here.
In the lighting. And that's that would have helped hitting.
The town is still excited about baseball. It's been a good baseball town.
In fact, there's been rumors that our affiliate may come down here.
Wow.
I don't know if that's true or not, or if you guys have heard anything.
It's been talked about a little bit on the street, yeah. What's your future? What are you looking?
I don't know. When I got in it last year, Joe McDonald, who had been around baseball for a long time and I was friends with, just asked me if I'd like to, see if I'd like it. I said, yeah, I'll try it. I talked to my wife about it, and then we tried this like the short season just to see if we would like it, and I really enjoyed it. And then after this, my second year, and there's been some talk about maybe being like a hitting instructor in the minor leagues, and so I really don't know yet. I haven't asked anybody about going back to the big leagues because right now I'm not ready to fly again. I'm one of the few guys that actually enjoy making bus trips.
You and Jackie Jensen.
Yeah, I like the bus trips myself.
All right, give us a quick capsulization of your career after Jamestown.
Well, from Jamestown, I went from here to the Florida State League, and a lot of the players that played here went to the Florida State League, and then we got a new draft of pitchers that turned out a little bit better, and we wound up winning the next year in the Florida State League, and Ellis Valentine come in to mixed with us, and from there we went on to Double-A in '74 in Quebec City, and we won again. And then in '74, of August of '74, I got called up to the big leagues in Montreal.
Terrific.
And I played from there in Montreal from there until the spring of '82, and I was traded for Al Oliver down to Texas, and played for Texas for 7 years. And I played 1 year in Boston, or finished out that year in Boston, and then I wound up going and playing 2 years in Japan.
No kidding.
Yeah.
It must have been an experience. Huh?
That was an experience. We had some, it was good for I think for my kids, they saw a different culture, and we were treated great over there. It was a lot of fun for us. And then after '90, we called it quits.
Your highlight. What's the highlight of your career?
Oh, I don't know. Just playing up there for a long time was a highlight. Sort of standing the test of time. I think hitting 3 home runs in both leagues. One of the few guys ever to do that. And I hit 3 grand slams in 1 week. Only a couple guys have ever done that.
Oh, I remember that.
I think winning the division with Montreal in '81, that was big, and then winning it again in '88 with Boston. And getting to go to the playoffs. Those are big things. Going to the All-Star game a couple years. But probably the biggest highlight I had, I think, was one of the games where I did hit the 3 home runs. I hit 3 in 1 game in Atlanta, and my parents were there.
Oh, terrific.
So I think that was probably the best.
Yeah, that's fabulous.
Who'd you hit him off of?
I hit 2 of them off of Tommy Boggs, and then 1 off of Mailer. In fact, I had a chance to hit. I got up 2 more times that day.
You were swinging from the heels, were you?
Yeah, I think I started over swinging after that to try to hit 4. I didn't do it.
Yeah.